creating a new product that is financially viable, valuable to customers, and creates impact is hard. We're here to help. By joining us in this 5-part video workshop series, you will go through a process to help avoid mistakes and improve the chance of creating a successful social enterprise product. Each episode is a self-paced workshop, which you can do alone or with a team, and will walk you through some of the most essential parts of product development. I'm Matthew Rempel, founder and lead social enterprise developer with Strategy Made Simple. We help social enterprises grow their business through consulting and education in organizational development and marketing. This workshop series is presented in partnership with Local Investment Towards Employment, or LITE. In this workshop, we will be going through the planning process, brainstorm some ideas, and evaluate the relative difficulty of designing and producing products so that you can pick the best one for your first prototype. At the end of the workshop, you will have a short list of ideas that you can refine and/or prototype. If you'd like to collaborate or get some outside perspective on your product ideas, you can come start a conversation on Twine. More on that later, though.
Hey, thank you for joining us. My name's Ian Roundtree. I'm the Executive Director of LITE, Local Investment Toward Employment. So happy you could come and watch this video and join us to work on a roadmap for product development and social enterprise. This workshop series is presented by LITE in partnership with Strategy Made Simple, and we're going to tell you a little bit about how LITE built our social enterprise over the course of 5 years in the middle of the pandemic through prototyping, some of the challenges that we faced, driving some benefit to our partners.
Every product is created with a specific need or want in mind. Take this set of screwdrivers. There are some key differences between them, and they've each been clearly designed with a specific purpose in mind. Some are short for small places where it's difficult to fit the full length of a screwdriver. Others are long to fit through small gaps to reach the screw. Each are designed to work with a specific kind of screw, and most screwdrivers are designed for screws that are relatively common. They fit within an existing system that has a limited number of screw head options, and it would be ridiculous to try to design a unique or a proprietary screwdriver, because it wouldn't work with the screws that already exist in the world, unless you have other strategic reasons to have proprietary screws that are outside of appealing to existing tool purchasers. The way that these screwdrivers are already designed are specific to solve the common needs and wants of the customers in the market for screwdrivers. If you were looking to design a new kind of screwdriver, you would need to figure out what customer needs and wants exist within that category and either solve them better than the existing options or create something for the needs and wants that haven't been addressed yet. Toward that end, I want you to think about what needs and wants still exist within the broad category of customers that are interested in buying screwdrivers. If we are actively pursuing this strategy, I would start by listening to the dissatisfied customers that already buy screwdrivers. What are they saying online, in forums, on social media? We could also do interviews with customers that have purchased screwdrivers before, but still have additional needs. When we're looking to make a prototype, we will probably have to go through several rounds of customer research to make sure that our final product is actually satisfying the customer's needs and wants. All of this is to say that design is often iterative. The products on the market now were not created fully formed, and most have gone through many iterations and design cycles to make them what they are now. Your product will most likely go through the same process. In each cycle of design, we'll need to improve our product and make it a better fit for the needs and wants of our customers, or the customers we haven't reached yet. We'll be talking more about this in a future episode, but be prepared to design and redesign your product many times over. Now, I'd like you to examine some products that you have purchased before. By putting yourself in the seat of the critic and analyst for something that you personally find valuable, you will have a better understanding of your future customers. We will take 10 minutes for an activity to explore the connection between the designer and the customer. We suggest letting this video run during each activity to keep the forward motion and to strike a balance between having enough time to do the activity well, but to avoid getting stuck in activity and trying to strive for perfection. We're just doing enough. During this activity, I'm going to ask you to go find an object that you have bought so that you can analyze it from a design perspective. And I'll put additional instructions up on the screen during the activity. But throughout, you should write out a list of answers that you find to questions such as, why was this object made? What are the primary and secondary wants and needs that it fills? What problems does it solve? And how would you describe a group of people that each have those same needs and wants. On the flip side, why was the object designed the way that it was? And how might this object that you've chosen, how is it manufactured? The object that you choose could be literally anything that you've purchased, but the activity is usually easier with physical objects. We'll also put up a video of various objects throughout this activity to try to spur some other ideas. So go ahead, pause the video until you've found an object that you'd like to analyze. Now, throughout this activity, try to see from both your own perspective as well as from people who have different uses for this same object. For this activity, we will give you 10 minutes for that, starting now. Have you explored the needs or wants that encouraged you to buy the object, as well as the different needs and wants that others might have had? Consider that. We'll keep going. haven't already, I suggest moving from describing the needs from a customer perspective to analyzing from a designer's perspective. Why was it designed the way it was? How could it have been created into the form that it presently has? Only 2 minutes left in this activity. Try to have at least some notes for each of the questions. All right, that's the full time we have for this activity. Thank you for following along and humoring me. From here, we'll shift to Ian Roundtree, the Executive Director of LITE, as he explains the process that they went through to develop and begin selling their dry soup mix product.
So when we were developing some of our products, one of the primary restrictions that we set on ourselves to make sure that we weren't incurring these burdens on the people that were receiving them is that all of our products are just add water. They're meant to be as accessible as possible right at the product design level, because that's very important for keeping with our mission of making sure that we understand when we give somebody something, they have to be able to use it. So we're very mindful of things like allergens and other dietary restrictions for one thing, but also any kind of additional preparation requirements. We need to think about that when we're developing new products. It's very important to the way that we do our social enterprise. We developed a number of soups, and this is the biggest collection of lessons that we've had in social enterprise have come specifically from dealing with these soups. Wonderful. We had a student in early in the year to help us develop a wide range of product. She did almost 30 products for us, just doing research and prototyping and testing over the course of her limited term with us. But one of the products that she developed was a very simple, add water only soup mix that could be done in 3 different varieties. We got this formulation, we had it standards tested, it's got the nutritional labels on it and everything, it's grocery store ready. Only took us a few iterations to get there, really. But in 2021, it was included as a major staple in our hamper, which had more of a focus on choice and agency for the people that were receiving them. Because we had lost our regular community partner for groceries, we included pancake mix and 3 different soups, as well as grocery gift cards, so that we could still be delivering value to the people that needed it, but so that they could then make the choice of what they would buy with those grocery gift cards. And this was very well received. The ability to make your own choices and have some agency when you're receiving support from a community organization is incredibly valuable. This has become very important to us in the theory of how we work. But also, as soon as the hampers went out, we started getting calls and emails and questions about where people could spend their own money to buy more soups because they really liked them. That's a huge endorsement. We did not expect the kind of positive reaction that we got from it. It was really great. So the next year we did it again, because after our first year run, we had a good opportunity that came at us seemingly out of nowhere. The Christmas cheer board. They've been around for about 100 years. And part of LITE's work was solving some problems that they simply weren't equipped to handle. We just did things in a different way and supported a slightly different community than they did. We, throughout our history, did not have a chance to work with them to solve some of the problems the way that we solved them. And then in 2021, we did. We had a food product. They needed food because they were doing hampers. So that year, their new executive director worked with us and purchased 8,000 units of food product through LITE. This was historic. That sale alone was $56,000. It employed people for about 400 hours of manufacturing time. And then in 2022, we did the same thing again. We worked with the cheer board for a second time. We produced the same number of units with our partners as we had. Now we're into iteration. The cheer board's order was slightly smaller in 2022 because of a number of reasons, but that meant that we had more units that we could do something interesting with. So our hamper turned out to be a lot bigger than we expected it to because we had the extra food that we had produced. And we also started selling to the public. This was a first for us for the soups, and again, this was very well received. We've got a number of repeat customers who order soups every couple of months from us at this point. We've sold a couple of hundred units just to the public alone, on top of providing them to the Christmas cheer board and including them in our own hamper. And we're continuing at it.
Thank you, Ian. We'll be going back to LITE's story throughout this workshop series as a core example of how to do product development as a small nonprofit. Within the example that Ian shared, we had examples from both the customer's perspective and the social enterprise perspective. We're going to go into another activity to reflect on this story. We'll start by taking 5 minutes to explore what pain points were solved by the soup mix. Then I'd like you to take 5 minutes to explore what pieces needed to be developed in order for the soup mix to be produced and sold. By exploring this example, you will think through the design process for an existing product. That should make designing your products easier in the future. Okay, 10-minute timer, and I'll jump in when it's time to switch focus. time to switch to the organization view. What is needed to be able to develop the soups and to bring them to market? Think about what resources are needed at each step, from design, production, transportation, sales, and delivery. Okay, that's all the time we have for that activity. And I hope you'll have a good list of points for both the customer needs as well as the organizational needs to be able to create and sell this product. When I'm thinking about this process, from the customer's view, I'm thinking about the time savings that come with using a soup mix instead of making soup from scratch. And that's the main point that I see being solved. But there's also the ease of calculation compared to a more complicated recipe. Just add water in a specific ratio and you're good to go. Dry soup mix, 6 cups water, you're good. The wants and needs for the customer also could include in having a healthy, tasty soup, a happy and well-fed family, or to have a soup mix that has enough to make leftovers so that you have some left over for future meals. When it comes to the organization's view, clearly, a good soup recipe is core, it's essential. And as well as having the nutritional information and the packaging design, you can't sell a food product without this. They also need to have a good food supplier, stable enough food supply prices to be able to estimate and know what their costs are going to be, labor for the cooking and the packaging, as well as packing materials themselves need to be in place to be doing the production, and a marketing sales channel such as a website or farmer's market to sell it. And a delivery system's also needed to sell the products, especially if it's being bought online. I'm sure I didn't catch everything, and if you have something else that I didn't mention that you can think of, please put it down in the comments. So now that you've thought through an example of a product that's already been made, I want to turn our attention to listing and evaluating the ideas that you have for products that you could make that solve a need for a customer base that you have access to. This will be a multi-step activity. Please follow along with the timings in the video. We're trying to balance having enough time at each step so that you can widen your net of ideas, while also balancing short enough time so that you get through the activity and you move on to the next step. Over the next 10 minutes, please write down the pain points or wants and needs that your ideal customer group has. From there, we're going to eventually move on to the products and services that you can make, but we'll get there. Okay, so you got 10 minutes to write down pain points, wants, and needs. Try to make a list of at least 10 pains that could be solved and 10 wants or needs that you could address. All right, the list of pain points and wants and needs should include both things that the customers have explicitly mentioned, things that they've told you specifically, but should also be informed by the actions that they take. What kinds of products and services do they already buy? What are their complaints about the existing options? And what does that say about their true pains, wants, and needs? 5 more minutes to expand on that. That's all the time that we have for that, and I hope you have a good list of purchasing motivations. So now we're going to move to brainstorming products and services that address these pains, needs, and wants of your customer base. Using the list that you made in the previous activity, try to think of as many products or services that could be sold to solve the pains, wants, and needs of your customers. Don't worry about if they're reasonable or viable yet, we'll get to that later. For now, let your mind go wild and make a list of any potential ideas. There are no bad ideas at this point, and we'll filter out the ones that aren't good fits in the next activity. So for this activity, it'll be helpful if you number the pains, wants, and needs that you've listed before, so that as you make your list of products and services, you can link which needs are being addressed by which ideas. Okay, 5 minutes to come up with some product or service ideas. thank you for making that list, and I'm sure there are more ideas that you could come up with. And you'll probably have more if you go through these activities with your team or with other community members. You can take some time to do that later, and usually we take more than 5 minutes for this, so feel free to take more time later. We've condensed this part for the sake of time and to get through the workshop, and we encourage you to expand on your list of ideas, and you should ask other people who have knowledge of the problems that you're looking to solve for their ideas too. At this point, there's no such thing as too many ideas. Once you have your list of ideas, please label each of them with a letter or some other short identifier. We'll need that when we go forward. So, moving to the next activity. Now that you have the list of product and service ideas, we're going to do a filtering activity. We're going to see which of the ideas are more reasonable for your situation than the others. When we're looking to help refine our lists of ideas with social enterprises, we use a lot of 2x2 grids. This helps us to explain our thinking and to express the differences between ideas. For this activity, we're going to be looking at the relationship between the cost of pursuing each of the ideas you've made and the amount of effort that it would take to pursue the ideas. The idea is that you want to make sure that especially if you're new to product development, that you don't take on a project that is high risk for your first attempt. Please draw out the following grid. We're going to put some up on the video here. Along the left axis, so up and down, please write cost. This represents how much it will cost to pursue an idea. This is the expense that you or your organization will have to take on to begin trying to sell the product or service. This has nothing to do with the price you would charge your customers, and the further up you go on the chart, the more expensive it is to begin. The lower on the chart, the lower the startup and design costs. On the bottom axis, we're going to put effort. The further to the right on the chart you put your idea, the more effort it'll take to create a sellable product or service. The further left, the lower the effort required. Now, this is intended to be from your personal or organizational perspective. What is low cost and low effort for you will be different than for other organizations. For example, if you already have gardening experience in your team, you'll have an easier time than others creating a landscaping business. The point of the next exercise is to evaluate the relative cost and effort required to prototype and start selling new products and services. Don't worry about putting specific research numbers to any of the ideas at this point. It's mostly about showing the difference between the ideas. For example, if I were examining the relative cost of prototyping a workshop-in-a-box product versus selling baked goods, I would have an easier time in terms of both cost and effort in making a workshop product. This is because of the experience that both I and my team have and the existing tools that we have access to. The point of this exercise is about the cost and effort to design the product or service, and then create a prototype that you can use to try to earn sales. If you have a team that you'll be working with, I suggest doing this exercise as a team. Different people will have different perspectives, and some of the most interesting learnings from this exercise can come from hearing how other people explain why they think some ideas should be placed in a different part of the chart. And one last warning before we start. Sometimes it can be easier to see the challenges in ideas that connect with our existing experience than those that are newer to us. Consider both the known challenges and the unknown challenges that may occur when considering the effort and costs of your ideas. It can sometimes be easy to underestimate the difficulty or cost of operations if it's an idea that looks simple from the outside. So I'm going to be giving you 10 minutes to go through this activity. For each product and service idea that you made in the last activity, please put them somewhere on the cost-effort grid. If something would take more money to be able to design a version 0.1, put it higher on the cost side. If it would take more effort to create a prototype than the others, place it further on the effort scale. So this will position them relative to each other. And feel free to rearrange things throughout the activity if you think that you should change your position relative to the others based on the discussion or based on other things you've put on the chart. It can be helpful to use a whiteboard or to write the ideas on sticky notes so that you can rearrange them more quickly. And if you have a lot of ideas, or if you're having a good discussion with your team and you need more time, I suggest going until you have broad agreement on the relative placement of the ideas. Okay, 10 minutes for this, starting now, go. Okay, that's all the time we have for that. Now, you should have a set of ideas that are lower cost and lower effort than the others in the bottom left. I suggest looking at the ideas that are in this corner of your grid. These are the ideas where you're more likely to have an advantage or have an easier time creating a prototype with less risk. I hope this workshop has been helpful and that you have a better idea of what your customers' pains, wants, and needs are, as well as what you might be able to create to address them. In our next workshop, we'll discuss how you can reduce the risks involved with creating a prototype and prevent some common mistakes before they happen. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comments and we'll do our best to answer. And if you'd like to have a further discussion about this process or working in social purpose business, please come join us at Twine. Twine is an online community of social enterprises and social purpose businesses that are working to improve our societies through operating businesses. You can find us at Twine.community or in the link down in the description, and we'd love to have you join the conversation. Thank you again to LITE for partnering with us to create this video workshop series, and you can find more about them at lite.mb.ca.